I think it's too late. Anyway, all right, we're live. I'm going to start yelling at the
Woo!
mic. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Ruby Rogues podcast. This week on our panel, we have Valentino Stoll.
Hey now.
I'm Charles Max Wood from Top End Devs. I'm going to do a little personal thing here, real quick. My contract work has slowed down, so if you need a contractor, let me know. Chuck at topenddevs.com. Or if you're hiring full time, I might even consider that. So, anyway, just email me. We have a special guest this week, and that is Nathan Bellow. Nathan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Nathan Bellow. I'm from Canada and Montreal, and I'm
Oh,
a
cool.
software developer professionally since 2 years now. And I work with Ruby, Rails, and Vue.js.
Very cool. Yeah, just a little side note. My grandparents met in Montreal. So,
Oh,
yeah. Neither of them are from Montreal, and they didn't live there very long. But anyway, um, very cool. So you're kind of new. Valentino introduced or invited you on the show. So I'll let Valentino kind of give us some context and steer this one.
Yeah, I met Nathan at one of the Ruby comps when it was virtual, and it, he's awesome, and I got to talking with him, and we pair on occasion on a couple open source things, and uh, I'm just curious. I wanted to kind of get like a you know, how do people Ruby? Like, how do you get introduced to the community? Uh, you know, what is that experience like? And Nathan graciously agreed to come on and kind of chat through his experience and what Ruby local conferences are like. I'm always curious. I see some great presentations at Montreal RB, and I just wanted to start a little dialogue with with kind of like what new Ruby experience is like and how we can maybe improve it or, help in any way as community members. So, uh, I'm happy to have you here, Nathan. And, is it, do you want to give a little intro maybe to what your first Ruby
yes,
experience was like even? Like, how did you get involved, in this direction?
absolutely. So, as far as software development, I was very into it since a long time ago when I was a kid. And
Was that in Montreal? You
later,
grew up there?
no, so I'm originally from Brazil, but I grew up
Okay.
in most of my school was in France. I lived 10 years in France, and when I was 12, there were some extra curriculum at school,
Mhm.
which was you could choose different things, but there were one thing that was about programming. So I was very interested. So I did that. I don't remember which language I learned. I think it was PHP, but it was so long time ago. But on my mind, I always knew this is the path I want to take. But I didn't know it was a career or anything before. So after high school, I start to look into universities. So I take the yeah. So I was in France, end of high school. Then I go to university in Montreal. So I learned all these languages: C, JavaScript, Java, and I really liked more the front end at that time. I didn't like, but at some point I wanted to specialize in the back end, and I did a program in Ruby with Open Classrooms. I don't know if you know this school. It's based in France. I think I'm one of the only one who have a bachelor diploma in Ruby. it,
Huh.
it, it doesn't exist anymore, but I have it. I can show you. And yeah, so that's how I got introduced because I didn't know Ruby. I never heard about it, so I was like, this is something I want to learn. Then I researched a little bit, and it seems that it's beginner friendly, it's easy to use, etc. that's what got me to choose that. So I did a whole program with Ruby, and I had a great mentor. And yeah, I think my program was so hard that in the beginning I was doing some like just Ruby. I was making some Ruby application, like a game, and then I had to write it in
Mhm.
a object oriented way. And then I did the web application without Rails. That was the hardest thing with the rack, you know. And
Yeah.
there were no documentation online. All documentation are with Rails or Active Record or some for some DB stuff. So yeah, that was my most painful. But then when I transitioned with Rails, I find it was kind of uh, more easy. Just with the Active Record, I had a hard time because my brain was all SQL. So that was I think that was the hardest things for me to adapt. But other than that, it flew. It was quite nice, the experience. So that's my that's my introduction to Ruby basically.
That's awesome. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of Rails developers can relate to the pain of rack. It's the inner. It's funny because like I feel like the design of the interface of rack is really great, right? Like it's
Yep.
just like you have inputs that are standardized, and it requires outputs that are also standardized.
Yep.
But that's it. You don't really get anything else, and you have to do everything yourself, which which makes you love Rails that much more. So it honestly
Yep.
sounds like a great program you were part of. To feel the pain so you can know why you should love it, you know.
Totally, totally. And then
So,
after that, yeah, you had a
no, I
question,
was just
Charles.
yeah, I was going to ask, but I think you were going there with your after that. Is I was going to say, okay, so you learned Rails, you did some of this schoolwork or however you want to put it. How do you get from there to okay, now I'm a professional. I'm getting paid to write code.
Right. So through all this pain, and I did a Rails app. Like it's not super complex, but I could deploy on Amazon AWS. And then I felt okay. Let's look for a job, and so I started applying. And one thing I did was my resume was very unique. In I don't know. For me, it was I did like I did some kind of design on it. I don't know if that's because of that or not, but I got good result with my research. That was in 2022, like January, February, and just in one month and a half, I think I applied 30 or 50, and then I got how many interviews? 6 interviews and 2 offers. But the trick for me was I really sold
Mhm.
myself like more than my skills. I really say, oh, this is who I am. This is my dream. This is what I'm passionate about. And I also mentioned my previous experience. Like when I was studying, I did some other job like salesman, this kind of job, and it helped me too because soft skills are very it's always a plus. So I
Mhm.
think those things helped me get my first job.
Nice. So, what kind of work setup was it? Yeah, you can tell us who the company was, but you don't have to. Some people aren't comfortable doing that, and that's fine. But kind of give us an idea of what that job looked like.
Yeah, so this job is so at that time it was fully remote, and I was working with a another Rails developer, and in the beginning was um, yeah, I was like kind of junior, right? So the first 3 months he was giving me tasks, but he said to me I was good. The first three
Mm,
months, he said, you know, okay. He was impressed. I think because I went through so much struggles with rack and everything.
yeah.
so so yeah, after the 3 months, I was assigned more responsibilities, and I ended up leading the project after 6 months. And I learned Vue.js on the way as well. I didn't know before, and
Mhm.
that's part of the stack at work. And the company is Elixir, based in Montreal.
So I like to get into kind of the okay, somebody who's listening, right? What are they going to get out of this, right? And so I kind of see two groups. I think a lot of the people who listen to these shows are people who have been doing Ruby for a while, right? So they're not necessarily going, all right, how do I break into Ruby, right? They're in. But there's another group that listens because, yeah, they've picked up Ruby somewhere. They got exposed to it, or, at one point or another, like you did, and they want to get in. So I'm going to ask this question twice, and I'm going to ask it once for the new people and once for the people who are already kind of past the gate. So for people who are brand new, right? So let's say that I have a brother who wants to get into Ruby. I don't at the moment, and he's interested and he wants to get in and be a professional Ruby or Ruby on Rails developer. What advice do you have just to kind of get through to that first job?
Right. So one first thing, as far as the learning, I would say if he goes to the Odin project. Don't know if you heard about it,
Odin
but
project. Yep.
that's I think that's what I hear the most. That is one of the most helpful, or one of the best resource to learn. And then after that, one thing I always thought was, if you know other junior with you, you can do like a more ambitious projects as
Uh-huh.
2 people, 3 people as all juniors, and you define all the what the app will do, and it's kind of more complex, and you can use that for your portfolio and to apply for job. I think that's that's
I
my
like that.
advice.
I really like the find a group mentality. Incidentally, I tell experienced people to find a group. And a lot of people complain that they can't find a group. I'm actually starting one. You can find it at rubygeniuses.com. And, we get together every week and talk about Ruby. It's a new thing, so it's a small group right now. But anyway, yeah, it's so important to be able to find people who you can kind of bounce ideas off, who are about the same place as you and can explain things to you, and who you can work on projects with. So critical. All
Yes.
right, so I'm going to ask the question again. So now it's for people like me, right? So let's say I'm working at a company and they hire that brand new developer, right? They hire Nathan 2 years ago, and so you're walking in the door, and yeah, you've done some Ruby with your other things, but this is your first job. What do I do to help you succeed?
Hmm. Yes. So I think uh, one thing you must do is, one thing you must do is, well, be there for the junior when you assign him really small tasks, and you kind of feel how long it takes. And I my I will say that let him struggle a little bit, so
Mhm.
he learn a little better, and then once you're there to help, it's gonna be much more beneficial. That will be me, but I don't know if it's the same for other people. Um, yeah, that's kind of the one of the first thing that come to mind. Also doing pair programming
Mhm.
quite a lot. That's essential, I think.
Makes sense. Is there anything that they didn't do for you that you wish they had done?
Yes, there were no pair programming.
Oh, yeah, I bet that really helps. I'll just chime in on that one as well. My first job, I was actually working with Nate Hopkins, who used to be a host on this show, and I was like brand new, and my Rails experience was at my previous job. I'd been running the tech support department, right? So my job was actually to answer the phones, answer emails, and manage all the other people that answered the phones and the emails. But they wouldn't spend money on a system that a ticketing system, and so I built it in Rails, and that was my experience, right? And so I come into this next job, and yeah, I probably spent half of my time pairing with Nate, and I mean it's just immeasurable how much stuff I picked up from that. I mean there's just no way to know. And so yeah, I definitely feel that. I mean I still remember. I mean we're what 8 no 17 years later, something like that. And yeah, I still look back on it. 18 years. It's been 18 years. And it still was a highly formative thing that really helped me out.
Yeah, heavy +1 there. My first real Rails gig was at a small consultancy, and I must have spent the first 6 months just pairing with people.
Yep.
And like it's invaluable. Yeah, like
I mean, you pick up stuff that nobody would think to teach you.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I hadn't tested at all, and I think I learned
Yeah.
how to test in Ruby by pair programming with people.
Yep.
You do things, you learn how to do things that you wouldn't normally want to do because
Mhm.
of the fear of the unknown, right? Where
Yep.
you don't know how to do it, so why would you like necessarily like reach for it, right? You wouldn't even think to reach for it.
Yep. Absolutely. Why did you do that? That's such a useful tool when you're pair programming.
So
I
I'm
also have
curious,
to point
Nathan.
out,
Yeah, go ahead.
Nathan, your background with like the kind of fuzzed out white, it makes me think of all the movies when someone goes to heaven. So, is Montreal heaven? Yeah, there we go. All
Yes, it's heaven.
right, go ahead, Valentino.
I was gonna say, adding on to what you were talking about, the asking the same question multiple ways. I feel like there's a third way here too, in the kind of like the more experienced developers that are looking to take on more mentorship or maybe more managerial positions or something
Mhm.
like that. Uh, you know, like how is there any ways that it could have been more helpful for like in that process of either finding a mentor or like was there something that did help you like kind of like because of mentorship of somebody, you know what I mean?
Yes. So for me, one of the first things that helped me is called First Ruby Friend. I think it's still up. It's a website where you can sign up to either become a mentor or any junior Rubyist, and or you can sign up to be a mentee. So I did that, and I was mentored for 6 months by former Shopify employee, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot from him. And another thing is if we go on RailsConf or RubyConf, we can also match naturally. You can find a mentor that way. And yeah, but I think First Ruby Friend is really great. And also I'm recently a member of Agency of Learning. I don't know if you heard of it.
Huh.
It's basically it's kind of a Ruby shop of self-motivated early career developers. So the way it's done is we hire by pairs. So one junior, and there is also some seniors that lead the project that are there for mentoring, and that's a really great group to really get ahead. Because we are a group, we can also pair with each other between junior, between senior or mid, and that I think that's a great group if you want to advance in your managerial skills, mentoring skills.
Mhm.
And as a junior, well, it's a great group where you can progress or learn more for your career. So I think, yeah, that's a great place.
Yeah, that's
Very cool.
great.
I hadn't heard of that one.
Well,
Yes,
what's been
it.
your favorite project you've worked on?
Yeah. There was that project called the Pair App. So basically, it's an application where it's for pairing or anything that goes within a software development uh, environment. Like there is you can put your stand-up notes there, and so and the lead he can see all the stand-up notes of everyone if anyone is stuck. So it's kind of async, so it's great. And there is other feature for hiring as well, hiring people. And yeah, there were other feature, but on top of my head, that's the two things that was very interesting. And also we do some open source work, like with Ruby for Good. I've been
Mhm.
contributing to the Casa project. So yeah, it's very interesting. So I learn every day when I'm pairing with even with another junior. Sometimes he learns something I don't know. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome. I'm
That's
interested to
very cool.
know, like, how do you start? First, how do you know to get involved in these these things, right? And like, how do you get involved? Like, what does the process for that look like? Is it like pretty straightforward? Like, is there a learning curve? Is there some takeaways that you can like suggest people like have things set up to make this process easier?
Right. So one of the first things to get aware of this kind of opportunities for me is social media, LinkedIn and Twitter X. That's where I get news like like
Can I ask real
everything.
quick? So you mentioned LinkedIn and
Sure.
Twitter, and they're kind of used differently. Are there specific groups that you found in LinkedIn or specific Twitter accounts? I think I saw groups in Twitter now too. But yeah, where are you looking? Are you yeah?
Yeah. So for LinkedIn, there is some Ruby groups.
Uh huh.
I think they're called. I mean, if you go to groups, you type Ruby on Rails, you can find. Yeah, I'm on like four groups. Like one called Rubyist, 25,000 members. Ruby on Rails. Yeah, Ruby. The other ones are just called Ruby on Rails. And yeah, so I get a lot of like programming tips or something going on. And yeah, and also I add people on LinkedIn that are Rubies. So I get my feed is really like great for me. Like I get Ruby related posts a lot. And for Twitter, I guess I'm in some Ruby groups on Twitter, but I never really checked. It's there, but I never go on there. I just go on the For You page and I get I get some Ruby feed, and I guess you should follow like the Ruby page or whatever, and you press like on any Ruby thing, and then the algorithm will show you will show you all
Mhm.
the Rubyists automatically. And yeah, so that's the first thing. And then for specifically the agency of learning, so it's we are hiring in batch. So there were one batch that was I don't know when it was, but me I got like hired on November, I think. And yeah, I don't know when the next one will be, but anyone can apply, like if you're a senior or junior, and the process is quite easy. Just apply, and once you there, you're a member. Then we have a private Discord channel where you can post, oh, I want to pair, or who is available to pair, or yeah. And usually, if there is a specific project we have, there is a lead that's we have like a Notion where all the project requirements are there, and we are free to also add to the Notion like a specific feature. We can
Mhm.
write design documents. So yeah, it's really great. You can really expand your skill in every way, not just programming.
Very awesome. I'm gonna kind of take us on a little bit. So you've been programming now for a couple of years, and um, it seems like I run across people fairly often who they get into their first or maybe their second development job where they're still kind of new and they're kind of being brought up and taught how to do what they do. And then what happens is they kind of wind up feeling a little stuck, right? Where it's, okay, I've learned everything I'm going to learn here. Or, you know what? They're never going to promote me because I'm always going to be the newbie. Or, I just want to try something different. Or maybe there's something structural, cultural at the company and makes them want to think they want to move on. But they don't feel like they can, right? They don't feel like they can apply. They don't feel like there's an opportunity out there, or they don't even know how to find that next gig. And so I'm curious, how did you move from your first job where you were there for like 6 months and then moved on? How did you move from there to wherever you're at now?
Yeah, actually, my first job, I didn't move. I'm still in. It's just that
Okay.
I got kind of promoted. Um, but yeah, I'm still on the same, but I'm kind of in that same thing you just described. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of weird position. Um, but I would say one thing I do that's essential, I think, so far is I just network, because if I just apply to a job like that, I don't know, it will be like ah, he's maybe too inexperienced or something, or but if I talk to people, maybe they can see, "Ah, okay, I know this, I know that. I
Yeah.
could get some opportunities just by talking.
Hmm.
But if I just go cold approach, it's harder.
It's a lot harder. The cold approach is a lot harder.
I think you brought up a good point though of like I feel like early on in your career you think that you need to make this impression like you know everything or at least know enough where like you can do everything by yourself. And I feel like people
Wait,
hiring
that goes away?
I, I feel like people hiring don't want to know that you can do everything, right? Like they you know, we want to know that you can, right? Like, and that you're
Yeah.
eager to learn what those things are. And I know personally, like, I still have this problem too, like, of trying to, you know, over. compensate for not knowing everything because I want to know everything,
Mhm.
you know. And this is like it never breaks in software, right? Like you're never gonna break free of this notion. Uh,
Right.
but I feel like you make a good point. Is like, you don't necessarily have to know all of it, but having that conversation will highlight the things that you do know, right, in a
Mhm.
networking setting. And I feel like that's the most important part of like finding your gig, because it'll align what your skill sets are and where it's going with what people need, rather than just trying to say that you know everything, or trying to make it seem like it's something you're not. I feel like oftentimes people get placed improperly from just trying to say that you can do it all. I know
Yeah.
I've definitely gotten jobs where I've been like, oh man, I don't want to be doing this. And it's like I told them I could do it though.
Yeah.
So like I think setting expectations and definitely networking like that, yeah, I completely hear you on that. um I'm curious. I wanted to shift the conversation a little bit here, toward like conferences and maybe meetups and things like that, because I'm interested to know kind of like your insight on where what your opinions are on both like the Ruby conferences, Rails conferences, and maybe even like the local ones, right? Like you mentioned,
Hmm.
attending Montreal RB. What value did you see out of each of those, right? Like, did you see that one attending one of the events was better than the other? Like, was it important the timing in your career and what you knew for each event? Can you give us a little insight on that?
Yes. So yeah, I think one of the main value I get from this is friendship. Uh, that's number one. I get to know people, and I try to, like, every time. For example, I go to Montreal.rb, and then once we add each other on LinkedIn or whatever, I try to keep a conversation after.
This is the
And
meetup, right? Montreal RB.
yeah, for the meetup. And I try to even for, I think, RubyConf or RevsConf, I did the same. Like, I say, oh, nice to meet you. It was nice to see you. Blah blah blah. And yeah, so that's one of the first value. But of course, I learned a lot from the presentation, and that's really great. I learned more about the philosophy of the framework, of the language, and something I never knew was possible. That's really great. But I think the number one is really the friendship I make. And like, just an example, on Montreal at RB, I so okay, I met for some friends, and then like 7 months after, I get an opportunity, like a small opportunity. It was an app I had to help debug, and I got paid for like 3 hour work or whatever. So that's great, and I never expected. It's just because I knew someone and he knew me, and yeah, I think that's the most important.
That's awesome. And so I'm curious, like, were there any barriers to entry for either? Like, did you find, like, was it easy to attend, as an example, RubyConf or RailsConf, whichever you did attend? Was it easy to do, and like, was it did you find it difficult to meet people or connect? What was that like?
Yeah, actually, for the RevsConf, I got a free sponsorship ticket. I just, again, Twitter, right? I saw someone was offering, so
I
I
like that they
just
do that.
messaged.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I just messaged, hey, like, because that person was offering for early career junior, and so I was like, hey, I'm new. can you offer me a ticket? Then he offered me, no problem. So that was very nice. And yeah, and that was online, that one, 2022. So it kind of push you to meet people through that networking thing online. um as for I didn't attend yet any like in-person RailsConf. Maybe I will go to Rails World, which is in Canada, so I have to go. Not just
Yeah, it's in Toronto this year.
And
We'll go make friends there
mhm.
in person.
Yes, absolutely. And as far as Montreal Derby, the first time I think it kind of feels you as a beginner, maybe you can feel intimidated, or like everyone is so expert, you know. But I say no one is judging or anything. Everyone's welcoming, so yeah, it's fine. For me, I don't have this kind of fears. So I just go, let's make friends, and yeah. But yeah, it goes through my mind like, oh, they're so expert. How can I contribute to that conversation? So you can
Yeah,
feel that for sure.
Yeah.
I feel that pain. I remember my first. Honestly, I've only ever been to one RailsConf. It was early in my career,
Oh,
and
really?
oh yeah.
I've
uh,
spoken at least 2 or 3 times.
I want to say 2012 or 11. It was when it was in Baltimore.
No, I didn't go to that one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just remember going and being just like you said, very overwhelmed with, not being able to contribute to any conversation or what was happening. And as I've grown to know the community more, I feel like it's more welcoming than it appears on the surface. And I know that the conference has changed a lot, and they're a lot more welcoming to newcomers. And I feel like when they ask they always ask at the conference, "Hey, who's new? Who's this first time?" Right? And there's so many hands now, and that's so great.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited to go to a conference again now, right? And just see how it's changed and meet some newcomers, right? Like make them feel welcome, and you know but I do feel your pain. How do you contribute to the conversations? And really the answer is like just talk about it, talk about what you know or what you want to know. And they really love to talk about what's happening. And to be honest, it's really great if you do know all these things, and that you've learned over the years. It's like a great way to like break it down in a simple ways, right? Like that's one of the best ways to learn it better, is to be able to say it in simple terms, right? Like sure, ChatGPT can do so much, right? But doing it on your own, definitely it helps your brain like learn it even more for sure. um
Absolutely.
but I'm curious, like did the conference offer anything specifically that you remember, that where you were like, oh yeah, I've got to come back to a conference for this?
Yeah, so definitely the RailsConf that I attended was like really great, and I really want to meet more people and learn more. Those conferences from 2023 I watch online, but I watch the content online, but it's really not the same.
Hmm.
I learned the content for sure, but that pushed me to go back and meet more people and learn more from people. And yeah, it's like just watching a YouTube conference. It's really not the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll admit I remember attending RailsConf, there was lightning talks, which I had never heard about before. But basically, anybody can get on stage and just like give like a 1 to 2 minute like presentation of whatever they want, right? And it's great. I you know, but I'll just small takeaways from that, like this guy Corey Haynes, he used to be very
I haven't
avid.
talked to Corey in years.
Oh man, he's great. He has the 4 Simple Rules of Design, which are like it's a great book if you ever want to read that. But he came up on stage and just like ran his entire test suite with like thousands of tests and it like ran in like a second or two. And it was just like he's just like, you don't have to your test suite doesn't have to take minutes to run. and then that was it.
Yeah.
Then he left the stage, right? And it was great. And it eventually became a thing. Like he did some follow up on it, but I never forget. Like, what did he do? Stuff. Yeah, like, and his key thing was, well, you don't load the entire Rails application for every test file,
right?
Which has its pros and cons, but like
you don't hit the database if you don't need to.
Right, so many things, right? But it definitely was a key takeaway for me. And even still to this day, I think about it, like, of thinking more about why the things are happening, right? And like, I feel like when you get started with like a framework in general, like Rails, it's easy to like overlook the questions to ask because it does so many things for you behind the scenes, right? And that really opened up my mind. Oh, like I could just ask this question and like figure it out, like, and that was definitely like a key takeaway for me from just a lightning talk, right? Like 2 minutes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But so I'm curious now, like for like the smaller meetups, that's got like a much more personal setting. Do you find like that you get more specific content? Like what value differentiating from like a conference would you say that like something like a local meetup offers that maybe you wouldn't get from a conference?
Yeah, I think local meetup, you can always, well, first of all, one of the first thing, you can always meet again with someone like in a cafe or something. Like for example, I made friend with a CTO of one small startup, and one time I had some question for him, so we went to eat in a cafe, and that was great. That's one thing. And the other thing, you mentioned lightning talks. Sometimes we do jam. Well, jam. I forgot the naming of it, but it's like basically you have to share a gem that was useful to you.
Oh, okay.
So
kind of
so
like
then
our pitch.
Everyone, yeah. So then everyone can share, right? So sometimes there were even someone that just came out of a boot camp. You got to present what's the name? Form. That gem on Rails for the form with, or I don't know the name. I don't know.
Yeah, the helper form with.
Yeah, that one. So he got to present that gem, and then me, I think I don't remember what. I shared a gem where it lets you find the n+1 queries. So that was interesting. So, but the other times sometimes I feel like I don't want to share anything. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to answer questions. So yeah, but that's a advantage where you have an opportunity to share something even if you are brand new. So,
yeah, I want to just chime in on that for a second because I talk to new people and they're like, I don't have anything to share that everybody doesn't already know. And when I was pretty new to my development career, I would go to the Utah Ruby meetup, and it was funny because we had one in Utah County, one in Salt Lake County, one in downtown. I think there was one up in Cache County. Anyway, so you could go to 4 or 5 of them in the state. But I would go, and especially at the Salt Lake one, they'd usually have a short talk on something that was pretty fundamental. And so a primer. And so I would do the primers like every other month, even though I was new. And what was funny was that I would cover it thoroughly enough to where there was always something in there. And it wasn't because I was trying to, it was just, I had 5 minutes, and so to fill the 5 minutes, I covered everything about strings or whatever I was talking about, or the one of the HTTP libraries, HTTP party. But I would cover something, and I'd have one of the senior guys come up afterward and say, I didn't know it did that. And the other thing is that in order to prepare it, be able to speak to it for 5 minutes, I had to really learn it. And so if you're new and you're going to a meetup, volunteer to speak. Just raise your hand. I mean, even if you raise your hand and you say, hey, look, I'm going to talk about the device gem, and I'm going to cover it for 5 minutes. That's all I have. That's all I can manage to do. They will take you, because the meetup organizers appreciate it, because then they don't have to go find somebody to fill time. They don't have to fill the time, and you'll learn something. And I promise there are going to be people there who are going, I didn't know that was even a thing.
Yeah, that's so true.
Really, that's a really great tip, actually.
Yeah, as I helped run a very small Ruby meetup in Pennsylvania for the Lehigh Valley, and I think we had like maybe 2 people come a night, or sometimes 3. But we would run it either way. It was with work, and people would come, and like you would get requests every once in a while of like as an example, like and I mean, this isn't somebody new, but it wasn't even Ruby. It was there's a what powers Spotify was the Echo Nest, and this like lead developer that like made the Echo Nest like came in and gave a presentation on how like math works with music really great, and you can like extract things from sound, and it was like wild. And so like but as an organizer, you're like, yeah, like sure, it's not about Ruby, right? It's not it wasn't anything I knew about, but like it was great. Like we had actually like a lot of people show up that we weren't expecting for that night, and we didn't have to think about the content, and like it's like for sure, like if you want to give a talk or provide any like content for a meeting, it is just super helpful to have that like come to you as a maintainer. Right, like
that's right. I didn't I thought this way, but actually it's really great if we, like you said, we prepare something like device or just something everyone knows. But if you present very well, that's gonna be great for everyone, actually.
Yep.
I'm gonna do that next time.
Good deal. Do it. It's awesome. It's also, if you want to speak at conferences, it's a really good way to get your foot in the door, right? Even if you don't know if you want to, but hey, that might be interesting, I want to try it. It's a good way to figure out if it's kind of a thing that you'll enjoy. So,
right.
All right. Well, we're kind of getting toward the hour, so I'm curious, before we do our picks, Nathan, if people want to connect with you on LinkedIn and Twitter or anywhere else, how do they find you online?
Yes. So I have a website. It's called Nate Bell. So .ca. So Nate Bell, BELL.ca, and LinkedIn I'm Nathan Bellow. So Nathan, and Bellow is BELLOW. And Twitter is NatBlow. Twitter.com / NatBlow, NATBLOW.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's do some picks. Valentino, you want to do us some picks?
Sure. Yeah. In case you haven't picked up yet on all my ramblings, I'm very much into AI at this point. I do it for fun. I do it for work now. I just have way too much fun with it. But I got maybe a ridiculous at home server from these folks at Steger Dynamics that just has several GPUs in it, and very much looking forward to getting that set up and training my own models. Hopefully to make a Ruby specific one, just for fun.
What kind of AI projects are you gonna do?
Well, I want to play with making fine-tuned models on open source
Okay.
LLMs. So it seems very easy to do at this point. Like a lot of the infra is already established, and you just like set up and install your own Docker containers. And as long as you have your GPUs configured right with Python, it'll just like let you train what you want based on some open data sets. So I have some open data sets I've been eyeing for training purposes, and I just want to see, how it all works and what I can make out of it. But I want to start like I know a lot of the good like Ruby design like gems that I would like draw from, and so I'd like to see, okay, if I like feed it a bunch of GitHub repos with well designed Ruby, how well will it generate the Ruby responses? Because I feel like for ChatGPT or like a lot of these non-open models, it's like it's very hard to get the output that you want out of it without like massaging it a little bit. And so I want to see maybe if a fine-tuned version of it could help.
Nice. All right, I'm going to throw in my picks next. First of all, I just want to point out that we've had 57 people watching us on Twitter and one on Twitch. So the loner on Twitch, way to go. The people on Twitter, welcome aboard. It's good to see you. I'm going to jump in with, I always do the board game pick first. So if you're into board games, that's kind of my jam. And last weekend, I actually went to a board game convention in Davis County, Utah. It's just north of Salt Lake in Layton, called SaltCon. And they're doing another event, same location in June. So if you want to go to that, you might see me there hanging out with my buddies and playing games. One of the games I played at the convention is called Challengers. And Challengers is a card game. So if you've played War, right, where you just have a deck of cards, you deal out the deck to both players, and then you flip cards. Whoever has the highest card wins, right? And then you win ties by putting out more cards. Well, this is kind of like that, except so you start with the base set. Everybody has a base set of cards, and to play up to 8 people, which is awesome because most games, the bigger games will go up to 5 or 6. So going up to 8 is nice because I can like get my whole family playing and stuff. So what you do is you take your base set, and then they have A cards, B cards, and C cards. And so you draw 5 A cards, and it'll let you put 2 of them in your hand, or into your deck. And then you play basically this game with your deck. And once you've stacked up enough cards to beat the top card of the other player, right? So if they have a 3 on top of their stack, then you 1, 1, 1, 3, 3, you take the flag. And then they take all their cards and they put them on their bench, and the bench has 6 spots. So once their bench is full, if they can't put another card in their bench and they need to, they lose. Or if they run out of cards, they lose. Same with you, right? And so it's kind of this balance game between do I have enough cards to keep going if I have to, but do I have too many cards to where it's going to fill up my bench? And you can double up the same cards, right? So if you have 3 of the same kind of card, you start with 3 newcomers, I think is what they are. And so those newcomers, you can stack them up on your bench so that they only take 1 spot. But anyway, that's the whole game. And they have little cards that tell you who you're playing against. So, it'll have a purple row and then a yellow row and then a green row and then a right. And so anyway, so it was really fun. I played it last night with my my buddies as well, right? There were just 4 of us, but we just, played for a while. And anyway, so I'm going to pick Challengers. Board Game Geek has a weight on it of 1.77, which means it is relatively easy to pick up. And it has an exclamation point on the end of it, if you're wondering if that's the right one. And I'm putting links in the comments on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. But yeah, anyway, really had a good time with that. So I'm going to pick that. And then, as I mentioned, I'm getting the Ruby Geniuses going right now. I wasn't going to mention it until I had everything up, but it kind of got mentioned. So go to rubygeniuses.com probably next week as we record this. So if you're listening to it on the recording, it's probably out. You can come join us. We're going to have a call every week talking about something with Ruby. I'm going to be inviting people who are guests on the show and things like that. And we'll have conversations. And then we're going to have kind of a social, every third or fourth week, we're going to have more where we just come on and get to know each other better. So that, hey, I'm looking for a job. Well, okay, we're hiring. Or, hey, I'm trying to figure out deployments with Kamal. Oh, well, I've done that here. Let me help you out. Right. It's just a little bit more personalized that way. So, I mean, and that's really the run of it. You'll get premium access to a couple of other things, but that's it. And then the other thing I'm setting up this week is premium Ruby Rogues without the ads. And so if you want to join the Ruby Rogue Supporters Club, there will be a link, or you can just go to rubyrogues.com/premium. Again, this will be up next week. I'm literally cutting things over today. But yeah, so go check those out. All right, Nathan, what are your picks?
Yes, so my first pick is actually a Bullet Train. I'm building some SaaS application, and that's what I'm using. It's really it has been great for me, and yeah, that's my first pick. And the other picks are those I mentioned before. So just for everyone, if you go on firstrubyfriend.org for any willing mentor or you want to be mentored, you go to firstrubyfriend.org. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I looked at Bullet Train. I've heard some people talk about it and really love it, and I've heard some people complain about some aspects of it. So maybe we should get somebody from them to come on and talk.
Yes. I
All
complained about it, but after it's good.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Until next time, folks, Max out. All right, hang on for a second. Stay on.